Hello everyone. Now we are going to show you how to use SolidWorks to make this blower, and this is chapter 12 exercise 2, and today we are going to show you how to make the upper housing, which is this part. So we're going to use SolidWorks to make this part. And once again, it's chapter 12, exercise 2. Then let's go to SolidWorks to take a look at the part. So this is the part we're going to make. And let's take a look at the steps. So if I grab it up, and so first of all, we are going to make this base. Then we're going to make this part. And then we're going to make the front part, which is this part. And then we're going to create the fillets. So one here and another at the bottom. Then we are going to make the shell. So one is here, the other is at the bottom. So that's shells. Then we are going to do the extruded cut to make this part, as well as this part. And then we are going to do this part, and then we mirror it to another side. Then also put holes on each side and do patterns to get all holes. So this is our plan. Then let's get it started. And I'm going to close this part and start a new one. And let's go to the dimension and take a look. So first of all, if you take a look at the dimension, this is 5.75 and the thickness is only 0.25. So what do you think about the units here? Yes, it's going to be English units. It's not going to be the metric one, because the thickness it won't be 0.25. It's too small. Also, the length of the blower, it won't be just 7 millimeters. So this is going to be English units. Okay, so make sure when you do units, you do English units of this part. So let's go to SolidWorks and start a new one. And start a new in part and say OK. And now we're going to go ahead and change the units from a millimeter to inch. So you have to do it right now, otherwise you can't change it back. So change to English units. Then we go to sketch and let's get it started. So the first thing, we're going to make this part. And looks like it should be on the front plane. So let's go to sketch in the front plane. Then let's draw a circle. And let's figure out the dimension of that. So the dimension is R6. So this is English units again, because the radius of this big part won't be just 6 millimeters. So let's go back here and give a dimension as 6. So the diameter is going to be 12 because the radius was 6. And let's make a line to connect that. And then trim off the bottom part. So before we do that, let's save the work first. So it's chapter 12, exercise 2. And the part number, the part is called upper housing. And save the part. And now it's saved and also fully defined. Now I'm going to trim off the bottom part and say OK with that. Now I am going to extrude. Before I do that, save the work and go to extrusion and select the part. And let's look at the thickness. And go back to the slide. So the thickness is going to be 8. And thickness is 8. And put it in the center plane, middle plane. And say OK with that. Okay, and then next, let's see what we're going to do next. The next thing, we're going to do the top part. So for the top part, we're going to use a new function called the sweep. And after that, we're going to use a loft. So use loft to do another part. So first is a sweep. So in order to use a sweep, we're going to make this part first. So this part with the basis. Then we're going to make this curve. So this part is going to be swept along with this curve. Now we're going to make this part and this curve. In order to make this part, we're going to create a reference plane. So let's create the reference plane first. And I go to reference geometry and select the plane. And my reference is going to be the right view because the right plane is in the middle. So I am going to select that as my reference. And it's on the other side, so I am going to flip the direction. And the distance, let's go figure that out. The distance is 8.15. So we go back here as 8.15 as the distance and say OK for that. And now let's on this plan, let's make the square part. So let's go back. So we're going to make the smaller part inside because this is the side view of this part. So we see the inside and the outer side. So outer side is this part, and we are making this part right now. So let's look at the inside dimension. So the inside, it's 5.75 times 4.2, and we don't worry about the thickness so far because we're going to do the shell later. So we're going to put this, and the fillets is 1.5. So let's do that. Go back to the part. So I probably want to use the right side, the left side view in order to see it better. Then I go to a sketch and select a sketch. And this is the plan. And I make a rectangle and put it here. And now I am going to dimension the part. So the top one is 5.75 and the height is 4.2, and the half of that, so it's from the origin to this part, is going to be half of 4.2, which is 2.1. And now we are looking for the distance from here to the origin. So let's go back to the drawing. So I assume it's going to be a radius of this circle. So here is an arc here. So I assume the distance from here to the bottom equals to the radius, which is R10. So let's put a 10 there first. So dimension from here to the bottom is 10, and say OK with that. Oh, this dimension I messed up. So it's a half of 5.75. So 5.75 divided by 2. So now it's in the center and it's fully defined. Then save the work. Okay. And the next part, we are going to make this line, make this arc with this line there. And like we said, the radius of this arc is 10, and the center is somewhere, but there's tangent at the end. So let's do that. So I want to go to the front plane again. And so first of all, I need to exit the sketch, then save the work. Then I go to sketch. Well, ask me to select the plane. At this time, it recognizes the still sketch tool. So I am going to click it around and go to features, try extruded, and exit that so I can get rid of sketch tool. Then let's go back to sketch again. Yeah, now it allows me to pick up the new one. So I am going to pick the front plane again. Then now I want to go to the front view. Then draw a circle. So the radius, the center is somewhere on the point. So just randomly click one and make this to be tangent. See if it shows up. Yeah, the coincidence shows up. That's fine too. So now let's give a dimension with 10 as the radius. So the diameter is going to be 20. Now it's fully defined. Now let's trim off the part, see if it will work. Sometimes it doesn't, so let's see. So trim off the bottom one. So as you can see, if I do that, so the entire circle is going to be trimmed off. That's not what I want. So actually, they are looking for the intersection point here, which we don't have. So let's put a center line there, see if it will recognize. So say OK for the trim. Then do a center line from here to there. Then we have one intersection point there. Another should be there. And let's try it, see if it will work. Center line. Yeah, it worked. So to there. Then let's trim it one more time. Yeah, now it will work. So trim off. Now we have an arc there, and say OK. Now let's draw a line that is tangent to the top. Then maybe this point. Then make sure the horizontal relation is showing up. Then we have the line here, and the length is supposed to be exactly on the plane. So with that, I probably can delete this part. So go trim. Yep, I can trim off this part. And I can trim off this part as well. So trim that off and say OK. With that, I probably don't need the center lines anymore. So I'm going to delete it. And now the sketch looks good. And it's underdefined. I guess it's probably because of that point there. It doesn't recognize. So let me save it first. See if that point is still blue. Go to the sketch. Okay, I'm trying to go out of sketch first. Then go into the sketch one more time. Okay, let me hide that plane. Okay, so this is blue. Now let me drag it around and see if I can recognize on there. Now it's black. Great. Then save the work. Now I have not put the fillets there yet. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and put a fillet. So select the sketch tool and see if I'm on that sketch and do a fillet. Well, ask me to select the sketch. So let's select the sketch tool so we can get in there. Okay, didn't pick. So let me go out first. Then go to sketch, select the plane. So I'm going to select this line. then was here. Then I add a fillet. So the radius is 1.5. So type in 1.5 here as the radius and do the index. So that's 2, as well as here, also here and here, and say OK. And say OK for that. And now I have this part and save the part, and I also have this line. Now I could do the sweep. So I do sweep here and select the shape, the profile, which is this. So this is on sketch 2, so I'm going to select the entire sketch 2, and the path I am going to select the sketch 3. Then this is what I want. And notice that by doing that, I am going to have all this lines here, intersection lines. So the original picture, it does not have that. The reason of that is I use a fillets tool. So in SolidWorks, as long as you use fillets, so all these lines will show up. So if you select to, instead of a fillets, you do the arcs and trim off, then those things are not going to show up. So anyway, so let's keep it in this way, and let's do the next step. So the next step, we're going to create this part, and we're going to use a loft tool. So before we do that, we would need to create the sketch of the top part here. So the dimensions, they are here. So it's 7.25 times 5.25. So let's go ahead and create this sketch first. And the distance is going to be from the side right view. The distance 5.75 plus 8.15. So let's go to the sketch and do create a new reference surface, and based on the right plane, and with the distance 5.75 plus 8.15, and it's on the other direction. So I am going to flip it to the other side and say OK with that. And then I'm going to make it bigger so I can put the part on there. And I go to the left view, and I'm going to draw another rectangle. So go to sketch and sketch, so it's automatically recognize this plane. Now I select the rectangle and draw it in this way. Now I'm going to give it dimensions. So the dimension is 7.25 at the top and 5.25 as the height, and a half of that is from this point to this point is a half of 7.25. So 7.25 divided by 2 is this number, and the height, so those two, they're supposed to be lined up. Okay, so the height from here to the bottom is going to be 5.25 as well. So let's go back here. So the height from here to the center excuse me. So the height from the top to the bottom is going to be the radius of this part. So it's going to be 10. So go back here, and the distance is going to be 10. And say OK for dimension. Now they're all black and with fully defined. Then let's save the work. Then this is the plan. And now let's put fillets on there. Let me go back to the left view again and put fillets there. And this tool is 1.5 again, so that's 1.5. 1.5 here and 1.5 here. Say OK for the fillets. And the fillet here. Then we have two planes. And let's save the work. Then we're going to use the lofted. So it's hidden because we're still in the sketch. So let's exit the sketch first. Then now this tool is available. So we select this tool and sketch 4. OK, and we also need this sketch. So let's go select that as well. Let's see where it is. So sketch 2, and it's recognized. Let's say OK for that. And this is our part. Looks right so far. And now we don't need this plane anymore. Let's hide that. So this is the part. Now let's look at the next. So we're going to make the shell at the bottom. So we've done here, and we're going to make a shell. And the thickness of the part is going to be 0.25, a quarter. So we go to SolidWorks and go to shell and select this part as well as the bottom piece and give a quarter, 0.25, and say OK with that. And this is the shell part that we got. And save the work. See what's the next. The next one is going to be put the fillets there. So we have a fillets here. We have a fillets here. And let's figure out the dimension for the fillets. So the fillets at the top is 4.5, and the fillets down there is 0.5. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So the fillets there, let's go to fillet and select those lines. This and the entire, okay, recognized. So let's select the loop. Yeah, looks right. And give fillets, so it's 4.5. And let's look at the full preview. Yep, this is exactly what we're looking for. Let's say OK for that. And now let's do another fillet here. So go to fillet, and we're going to select this. Oh, it's way too much. Let's do this. Yep, looks right so far. So let's give a radius 0.5 with the full preview. Probably won't take. Maybe there are two edges selected. Let's apply first. See if it'll work. Oh, it's a fillet expert, that's why. Okay, let's wait. Has not resolved all the features. Okay, then let's take a look. Looks right so far. Then we just accept that. If it does not work, then you could go back to the menu one, then do the fillets. And right now looks right to me, so I just exit and get the fillets there. And let's look at the next. Now we're going to cut this part. And let's go back here and go to sketch and select the surface, which this part, and do an arc. So from here to there, and let's look at the dimension of that part is 4.875. Okay, so go back here, smart dimension, 4.875 times 2 because that was radius, and this is the diameter, and say okay with that. Now we have to have a closed shape, remember, so we close the shape here and trim off the bottom piece, say okay with that. Then let's go back to the part, see what they should look like. Okay, so it's not all the way through actually, so let's do it. And so save the work first, then let's go to features and do extruded cut, and it's not all the way through like we said, so we probably want to go up to the next. Okay, so only cut it here up to the next and say okay with that, and we got this piece so far. Okay, let's look what's gonna be the next. So the next one is making the inside one there, and let's look at the dimension of that as well. So the dimension is 1.5, and let's do that. Go to another side and go to sketch and select the plane and make a circle. Whoops, make a circle, say 1.5. So I probably want to okay, the back view, and dimension that as 1.5, so the diameter is going to be 3, and say okay with that, and close the shape from here to there, and trim off the extra piece, then say okay with that, then go to features and extruded cut, and that direction once again is not go through, so we are going to go to up to the next and say okay for that, and we got this piece. And let's look at the next. So the next one is make the two side parts. So we are going to make one and marry it. And let's go back here, and now I probably want to select this plane as my new plane. So I am going to sketch and sketch, select a plane. Probably want to select okay, let me see if that was my top plane. Yes, it was. So select the top plane, then probably want to switch to the bottom view. Okay, and make that part. So be aware, this is a circular, not a flat surface either. So I probably want to make an extra inside, so when I extrude later, it won't have a gap in between. So I am going to actually make the part landed up here instead of right on the edge. So go to the bottom view once again, and go to lines, and probably want to start here. Okay, it doesn't, okay, recognize, good. And until here instead of the outer one, because when I extrude later, I don't want to have a gap in between. So now let's take a look at the dimension from here to the center. So go back here, and so it's 15 total. So the half of that is going to be 7.5. So let's go here and give a smart dimension. So from the line to the center of that part, Okay, it is the origin. Okay, it is the origin. Then it's supposed to be 7.5. And say okay with that. And let's look at this line. So it's blue, so let's drag it. Oh, well, I'm missing a relation, so it's supposed to be vertical. So add a relation here. This and this is supposed to be a, oh, one more point. Delete that. Supposed to be a vertical. No, not vertical. Okay, let me redo it. So select those two lines. I'm sorry, perpendicular, and say okay with that. Okay, so they're all black right now, fully defined. Then save the work. Then let's extrude, see if they'll work. So go to features. So select the sketch first. Then extrude. Then the thickness is going to be 0.4. 0.4 as the thickness, and say OK. Now we don't have any gaps here, which is good. And now let's look at the next step. Okay, so I am going to make holes first, then I do patterns for the mirror for both of them. So the holes, let's look at the dimension of the holes. So the diameter is 0.41. So let's go back here and put a diameter. So go to hole wizard and select the simple hole and put the diameter 0.41, which they don't have. So let's show customer sizing and put a 0.41. Oh, 0.41. And through all works good for me. And I uncheck this because I don't have any of them. 0.41 is millimeter. Does not look right. Oh, I need to switch to ANSI inch. Instead of ANSI metric, I need to switch to inch. Okay, so inch, it does not have the size, so I am going to custom sizing. I am going to put a 0.41 and uncheck this, and I don't need this either. Okay, and now I go to positions, select the surface, so I select the surface and put one hole here, and now I am going to dimension the hole. So let's find out the dimension. So it's 0.75 on the side, and the half of that is 13.5. So okay, no, 0.75. Now let's figure out the vertical one. Vertical one is 1. Okay, so let's go back here, and the dimension from this point to this side is going to be 1, and from here to there is 0.75. Say OK. Now the hole is fully defined, and say OK for the hole. Enter the number greater than 0.0 and less than. Yeah, I think I did. 0.14. What's wrong with that? Oh, maybe take out inch. Let's see. Yeah, still didn't like it. Okay, so let's check the options first to see if it'll work. Still doesn't. Try blend. Okay, it worked. So let's look at the hole. Looks like a countersink. Okay, let's go back and fix it. So I don't need the degrees there. So let me put 180. And let's go back and fix that. Okay, through all, what if I uncheck this? Okay, looks right so far. Okay, looks right so far. Now I am going to do the linear pattern for the rest of the holes. Let's look at the dimension. And it's 2 for each. Okay, so let's go back here and go to linear patterns and select the direction. I'm going to select this edge. And the distance, I'm going to put 2 there. And number of the holes, I'm going to put 4. And look at the preview. So the edge distance. Oh, okay, I am going to delete that and select this edge instead. And select the feature, which is the hole. So the hole here looks right, and say OK for that. And now let's do a mirror to get the whole part. So before we do that, let me check the plane. Yeah, I can use the right plane as my mirror plane. Then save the work first. Then go mirror. The surface, the plane is going to be the right plane, and the part is going to be the entire part, so not only the holes but also this part. And looks right so far, and say OK. Okay, so I got this part, and let's look at see if we have completed. Yep, looks that's all we have. So let's put into a good view. Then save the work. Then we're all set for this part. Thank you for watching the video. We'll see you next time. Bye.